Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Belchan.
I'm Nimakung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you a part of Great Expectations.
As.
Ah.
Great Expectations. Charles Dickens. Chap. 18 Sec 3. But said not another word. Wister. Chiggers had looked on at this, as one he recognised into the village idiot, and in me his keeper. When it was over, he said, weighing in his hand the purse he had ceased to swing, "Man, Joseph Gargery, I warn you, this is your last chance. No half measures with me. You speak out, and you shall have it. If on the contrary you mean to say here," to his great amazement, pugilistic purpose, which I mean to say, cried Joe, that if you come into my place bull-baiting and badgering me, come out, which I mean to say is set you if you're a man. Come on, which I mean to say that what I say. I drew Joe away, and he immediately became placable, merely stating to me why happened to concern that he were not going to be bull-baited and badgered in his own place. Wister. Chiggers had risen when Joe demonstrated, and had back near the door, without evincing any inclination to come in again. He there delivered his valedictory remarks. They were these: "Well, Wister, in. I think the sooner you leave here as you are to be a gentleman's better. Let us stand for this day week, and you shall receive my printed address in the meantime. You can take a hackney coach at the stagecoach office in London, and come straight to me. Understand that I express no opinion, one way or other, on the trust I undertake. I am paid for undertaking it, and I do so. And understand that." Finally, he was throwing his finger at both of us, and I think would have gone on, but for his seeming to think Joe dangerous, and going off. Something came into my head which induced me to run after him, as he was going down to the Jolly Bargeman, where he had left a hired carriage. "I beg your pardon, Wister." "Hello," said he, facing round. "I wish to be quite right, Wister. Shavers, and to keep to your directions. So I thought I had better ask, would there be any objection to my taking leave of anyone I know about here?" "No," said he, looking as if he hardly understood me. "I don't mean in the village only." "No," said he. I thanked him and ran home again, state parlour, and was seated by the kitchen fire with a hand on each knee, gazing intently at the burning coals. I too sat down before the fire and gazed at the coals, and nothing was said for a long time. My sister was in her cushioned chair in her corner, and Biddy sat at her needlework before the fire, and Joe sat next Biddy, and I sat next Joe in the corner opposite my sister. The more I looked into the glowing coals, the more incapable I became of looking at Joe. The longer the silence lasted, the more unable I felt to speak. At length I got out. Joe. Pip, returned Joe, still looking at the fire and holding his knees tight, as if he had private information that they intended to make off somewhere, which I left it to yourself. I would rather you told. Pip's a gentleman of her and then, said Joe. Goody dropped her work and looked at me. Joe held his knees and looked at me. I looked at both of them. After a pause, they both heartily congratulated me, but there was a certain touch of sadness in their congratulations that I rather resented. I took it upon myself to impress Biddy and through Biddy, Joe with the grave obligation I considered my friends under, to know nothing and say nothing about the make of my fortune. It would all come out in good time, I observed, and in the meanwhile nothing was to be said, save that I had come into great expectations from a mysterious patron. Biddy nodded her head thoughtfully at the fire as she took up her work again, and said she would be very particular. And Joe stood detaining his knees. That'll do. I'll be a coverly particular. Pip, and then they congratulated me again. Gentlemen, that I didn't half like it. What had happened, to the best of my belief, those efforts entirely failed. She laughed and nodded her head a great many times, and even repeated after Biddy, then an election cry, and I cannot suggest a darker picture of her state of mind. I never could have believed it without experience. But as Joe and Biddy became more at their cheerful ease again, I became quite gloomy. Satisfied with my fortune, of course I could not be, but it is possible that I may have been, without quite knowing it, dissatisfied with myself. And now, I sat with my elbow on my knee and my face upon my hand, looking into the fire, as those two talked about my going away, and about what they should do without me, and all that. And whenever I caught one of them looking at me, they're never so pleasantly, and they often looked at me particularly Biddy, I felt offended, as if they were expressing some mistrust of me, though heaven knows they never did by word or sign. At those times I would get and look out at the door, for our kitchen door opened at once upon the night, and stood open on summer evenings to the room, the very stars to which I then raised my eyes, the rustic object among which I had passed my life. Saturday night, said I, when we sat at our supper of bread, cheese and beer. 5 more days. And then the day before the day. Yes. The thubs of Joe, whose voice sounded hollow in his beer mug. Soon go, said Biddy. I have been thinking, Joe, that when I go downtown on Monday and order my new clothes, I shall tell the tailor that I'll come and put them on there, or that I'll have them sent to Mr. Omblick's, Wistu, and mice. How I might like to see you in your new genteel figure, Joe. It did Joe, industriously cutting his bread, with his cheese on it. in the palm of his left hand, used to compare slices. Some might wobble. That's just what I don't want. Joe. Al. That indeed. Well, said Joe. Biddy asked me here, as she sat holding my sister's plate. Have you thought about when you'll show yourself to Mr. Gargery? And your sister and me? You will show yourself to us. Biddy, I returned with some resentment. If you had waited another moment. Biddy. Biddy said no more. Hands up for giving her. I soon exchanged an affectionate good night with her and Joe, and went up to bed. When I got into my little room, I sat down and took a long look at it, as a mean little room that I should soon be parted from and raised above. Forever. It was furnished with fresh young remembrances too, mine between it and the better rooms to which I was going, as I had been in so often between the four Miss Havishams and Biddy and Estella. The sun had been shining brightly all day on the roof of my attic, and the room was warm. As I put the window open and stood looking out, I saw Joe come slowly forth at the dark door below, and take a turn or two in there. And then I saw Biddy come, and bring him a pipe and light it for him. He never smoked so late, and it seemed to me that he wanted comforting, for some reason or other. He presently stood at the door immediately beneath me, smoking his pipe, and Biddy stood there too, quietly talking to him, and I knew that they talked of me. Then once, I would not have listened for more, if I could have heard more. So I drew away from the window, and sat down in my one chair by the bedside, be the loneliest I had ever known, looking towards the open window. I saw light wreaths from Joe's pipe floating there, before me, but pervading where we shared together. I put my light out, and crept into bed, and it was an uneasy bed now, and I never slept the old sound sleep in it any more. To be continued.